The following podcast you're about to listen to is brought to you by the Push Start Media Network, where everything you do in life begins with pushing start.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of SYE Quick Hits. I am your humble host, Bryce Benjamin, along with my guy, Ed Reuter. And today, we are discussing the 2020 outlook for the Miami Dolphins. Reuter, first of all, sir, how are you?
I'm doing very well this morning. It's a great morning. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready. We're discussing my favorite team today.
Yes, sir.
So I'm all about it. I'm ready to go.
All right, awesome, man. So yeah, man, this is Reuter's team right here. So very interested in hearing how he feels about his Miami Dolphins. And Miami, 2019 season, got off to a rough start, to say the least. First 2 weeks of the season, losing to Baltimore and New England by a combined score of, let's just say y'all scored 10 points.
Easy.
And those other two teams combined for over 100.
Easy on us now. Take it easy.
Not to mention another loss to the Dallas Cowboys, 31-6. The Chargers, 30-10. It was not a very good start for the Miami Dolphins. And there's a lot of pundits saying that this may be the worst team in NFL history, beginning of the season.
But then, keep going.
But then, we're going to continue on. Miami eventually caught a decent stride, pretty much in the second half of the season, and ultimately finished 5-11 overall. But the main thing that we could take from this Miami Dolphins 2019 season is that they competed. They never quit on their coach. Brian Flores established a different culture for that Miami squad there. And you could tell that he's kind of bringing that New England type swagger down to South Beach there for them. And he's letting them know we may not have been the most talented team on the field in 2019, but we're going to compete our asses off. And when you come down to Miami, or when they come into your hometown, you're going to get yourself a hell of a game. And that's what happened throughout the rest of the season there for Miami Dolphins. And eventually they did finish off 5-11, but on a high note there, they was able to knock off the Patriots in week 17, which ultimately forced the Patriots to play in the wild card round. And we all seen what happened then. The Tennessee Titans actually just kind of manhandled them throughout the whole game there. But that had to be kind of bittersweet for you there, Ed, huh?
I love that. That wasn't bittersweet at all. Watching Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill at the helm, by the way, kind of dismantle the Patriots after Miami put him in that position. There's nothing bittersweet there. It was like a fins up moment the whole time, But yeah, you mentioned Brian Flores, bringing that team to 5-7 down the stretch after the first four embarrassing losses, particularly after those four embarrassing losses, was huge. How easy would it have been? In other situations, I remember New Bills acquisition Stephon Diggs was very upset after their start in Minnesota. All kinds of dissension amongst the ranks. You see that every year, that teams kind of quit on themselves. And I'll be willing to tell you, after the third and fourth game of the season, I thought, man, this team's really folded here. This team's tanking for Tua. That's what a lot of people were saying. But what makes me most excited for the future about this team is Brian Flores held that team together. He brought them back to 5-7, respectable down the stretch, and gives me a lot of hope for the future that we put a roster around this coaching staff, and it's going to be a hell of a team there. Yeah,
and again, you guys have a lot to be hopeful for, because you guys went into this 2020 offseason and absolutely killed it, in my opinion. First of all, in free agency, you guys landed one of the biggest fish in the pond, signing defensive back Byron Jones from the Dallas Cowboys to a nice 5-year deal, and made him the highest paid cornerback. And then also was able to snatch away Kyle Van Noy and also Eric Flowers, the guard. And then in the draft, guys did an awesome job in the draft as well. First of all, tanking for Tua. You guys were projected to have the number 1 pick. Eventually won those 5 games and dropped down to 5 and still got the guy that majority of experts were predicting that the Dolphins was tanking for. Not to mention they also was able to draft the cornerback. What's his name? We was practicing it.
The corner?
Yeah, Noah
Igbenogany. It's fun. I suggest any listeners try saying it to yourself. Say it with us. Igbenogany.
Boom. I think we nailed that.
It's so fun.
It is. It's tough. And then also Austin Jackson, offensive tackle prospect out of USC. So 3 first-round picks, 3 solid first-round picks, and then was able to kind of just establish a nice roster here that you can kind of build up from the ground, and we'll see what happens with this Miami Dolphins squad. So, Reuter, I posed a question for you, sir.
Okay.
All right. What are you looking forward to most for this Miami Dolphins team in 2020?
Looking forward to most. I would say what I'm looking forward to most is to see if they can have the repeat success that they had down the stretch. Mm-hmm. And when I say success and 5-7, some people might be thinking to themselves, well, what the hell are we talking about there? Mm-hmm. But what I'm talking about is the growth of this team. I think that Van Noy was an awesome addition. That was a guy that played with Flores back when he was on the New England staff, so I think he's going to know the system. I'm a little bit nervous. I know you said it was a big fish that we landed with Byron Jones. I think he's a great player. Should he be the highest paid player at his position in the league? I don't know about that. I'm always a little nervous about guys coming from the Cowboys because they tend to get that Dallas Cowboys, America's team hype that, very similar in baseball when a guy's coming from the Boston Red Sox system or the New York Yankees system. That They're all hyped up and that, sometimes they don't quite perform like you think they would. But I do like their draft a lot. My family's a little bit of a house divided here. Quick shout out to Scott Ullery and Steve Stanley. They're 2 of the biggest Dolphins fans that I know, and I remember after the draft we had hours of conversations and texts about Tua in particular and whether or not he's the guy. So I'm hoping, as crazy as it sounds, that Tua doesn't play this year. I'm hoping that they let him rest up, give him a year under Fitzmagic. If there's any kind of injury to Fitzmagic, we just let Josh Rosen take the helm. Okay? Let it be 1 more year of rebuilding. Right? Don't force Tua in there. Don't force him in there before he's ready and possibly risk an injury. I've seen how that can go down. We saw when RG3 played with the Redskins, forced out there a little bit too early and forced out there while injured, and his career was never the same. So you got a first-round pick. Let's protect him. Let's do the right thing. This roster, I think, still 1 off season away. Great additions, ready to go. I could see this being an 8-8 team this year, but I don't know, man. I don't feel as though they need to rush Tua back. So I guess to answer your question in full, the thing that I'm most excited about is just to see how this team develops in what I think is still a transition year.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. And I agree. I think the main question I have about this Dolphins team is, can they continue to establish a winning culture in South Beach? Miami has been one of those teams over the past 10 years or so where you guys have been average to below average, and you kind of been stuck in that NFL purgatory where you're not bad enough to get one of the top prospects in the draft and usually aiming for a quarterback, but then at the same time you weren't really good enough to be competing for perennial playoff contentions. So finally you guys kind of bottomed out. You finally got your quarterback of the future. All right. And I agree with you. I think you should let him sit, let him learn from Ryan Fitzpatrick, one of the best incumbent backup quarterbacks we've ever seen. And then on top of that, you guys drafted 2 rookie offensive linemen in Austin Jackson and then also Robert Hunt. And they projected to be very good players, but at the same time, you may not want to throw out a rookie quarterback with hip issues behind the offensive line that is still trying to gain some continuity with one another. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're exactly right, because even if you look at the draft, as much as I did like it, this is a team that I think drafted very intelligently, knowing that they're not ready to compete this year.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at the draft, Tua Tagovailoa at the fifth overall pick, their first of their 3 first-round picks, is a guy who's coming in injured that they know isn't going to play right away. There's a perfectly logical reason that he should just sit the entire year, 1 year away. Let him play next year. Okay, you have Austin Jackson who, at offensive tackle from USC. He was widely considered one of the most talented with the highest ceiling, but he's a bit of a project there. That's why he was like the 4th or 5th offensive tackle to go. All right, then you've got Noah Igbenogany. It'll never stop being fun. But he's also a bit of a project. Again, incredibly high ceiling, but he might not be, out of the gate one of the top 2 or 3 corners in that draft class. So what they did was they drafted a bunch of high ceiling guys that aren't necessarily ready to go day one, and I think that fits the entire scheme of what they're looking to do. So if they grab some of the highest ceiling guys and they move on to be top caliber players in years to come, that's what this team is looking to do right now.
It seems like Miami is also looking to establish more so of a defensive identity. And nowadays, with all the spread offenses going around, you need a minimum 3 good cornerbacks. You probably have one of the top 5 cornerback tandems if the Byron Jones signing pans out, between him, Xavier Howard, who's been a top 5 corner in the league for the last 3 or 4 years, and then also with the draft pick of Igbenogany. So you have your cornerback set there. You go ahead and, like you said, you sign Kyle Van Noy, who's been one of the most underrated players on defense for the New England Patriots for the last few seasons, and he kind of comes in and stabilizes part of that front 7 there for you guys. So it's looking like that Brian Flores wants to have sort of what Bill Belichick does in New England, because New England usually has an elite defense and usually starts with their secondary there. And then, like you said, man, you drafted for the future. You got your star quarterback, who I believe, in my personal opinion, was the best quarterback prospect in this draft, including over Joe Burrow, who went number 1 overall. So you got your quarterback, you got your future left tackle, you have Robert Hunt, who could play guard or tackle. We'll see what happens there. Not only that, you guys was able to extend DeVante Parker to a nice extension, who had a decent season last year and is looking like he's trending upwards. So I like what this Dolphins team is doing. This is one of those teams that I do secretly root for, and it's for me, it's kind of personal reasons, because you got yourself a black GM along with a black head coach, and I love seeing shit like that. Like, you don't see that too often in sports. So I kind of hope Miami can definitely keep this train rolling upwards and then eventually become perennial contenders for that AFC East crown.
There you go. I like all of that, man. That was great. I'm just no secret fan of the Miami Dolphins. I'm an out there in the streets waving the banner,
as you should,
fan of the Miami Dolphins. Other couple pieces to touch on real quick that we didn't cover yet. There's also the addition of Shaq Lawson that I liked a lot, the former Bill. I think he's a piece. You rotate him in on defense, and he could be a nice little piece. Also, it appears as though the Miami Dolphins are trying to corner the market on Raekwons, because they already have Raekwon McMillan, who is a pretty solid player at linebacker for them. And they also drafted a tackle, Raekwon Davis, who I think is going to be pretty solid. He's out of Alabama. He played in a tough conference. He's a run stuffer, and I think that the Dolphins can definitely use him.
Rumor has it that they also have signed Raekwon the Rapper to be their music coordinator for game day.
That sounds right, because they want all the Raekwons.
And then that last part is completely false. I just made that up.
You had me a believer. You had me a believer, because we are not content. We will not rest until we have
all the Raekwons.
All the Raekwons.
We need all the Raekwons.
Brian Flores, how many Raekwons do you want? All of them. That seems to be the strategy so far. But either way, great pieces there, and I don't know, just some excitement for the first. This is the first time I'm looking at a Dolphins team, I'd say, in the last 10 years. I like the kid a lot, Ryan Tannehill, but that whole era, we were kind of a mess. Exactly like you said. You said it perfectly. We were in that purgatory, 7-9 every year. middle of the first round draft pick, not helping us out at all. This is the first time I've got some real